Hey guys, it's the Blundering Biscuit. Let's get in and play some chess. Choice of either knight exchange or free pawn without the loss of a knight. I mean, not really anything else I can see my opponent can really threaten here. Let's just take the free pawn. Of course, he's open here to a check as well. Or at the very least, I could potentially get a free rook. Maybe. We'll see what he does. I'm moving my knight here into f7. Gives me a lovely little fork. Really? Okay. I suppose the computer would say I really should have done the check with the bishop, but that's alright. Just take a queen, because it's more valuable than the rook, but that's okay. Next I'll take the bish, and I've got a threat to the straight up there to his knight. Okay, so my opponent decided to move his knight out of the way, playing for a little bit of safety in there. That's fine. Alright, so my bishop to f4 will let me target the c7 pawn for a check. But my next step from there is not very clear. I really do need to get my my rooks together, so let's put a little bit of pressure on that knight and see what my opponent does. Game abandoned very quickly. Oh, that was a good sport. Yeah, I'll give him that. Even though he did abandon the game, I guess maybe he got stuck. Alright, let's have a look at the chess.com game review and see what Coach has to say about that. 95.2 accuracy? Holy cow. Shit. And my opponent played a 62.8, so I had one great move, no blunders, which is nice, no misses, no mistakes, no inaccuracies, 4 books, 3 excellent. I'll take that as pretty nice. Alright, so coach, walk me through this game. Okay, so 4 knights game, Italian variation. Started off saying it was the Vienna game and then the Max Lang, but okay. Alright, so we go through up to the first 4 moves, all look pretty good. Let's start actually move 1, do a proper review. Book. Okay, all good. And bishop b4 was a good move, but knight takes e4 was his best move. So capture the pawn and lose a knight. But it would have given white, of course, a plus 0.04. Okay. So I castled, which was okay, but knight d5 was better. So the engine's wanting to go that knight exchange early. Alright. So a mistake was knight d4. Yeah, it wasn't a really good move by my opponent because he did leave a few things open, including the hanging pawn, which I took. He's hanging because he's completely undefended. There's nothing else around to defend that pawn. The knight itself is a target, but it is defended by the pawn, so that again would just go straight into that knight exchange. So knight takes e5 gave me a great move, even though it wasn't listed as the best move by the engine, but anyway. Okay. And then capturing the knight was a mistake. He would have been better off castling. Knight f7 was the best move. King e7 was an inaccuracy. Queen e7 would have been the best move. So he would have actually then given up the rook, but his queen would have been in a really dangerous place for me because he would have had access then to the pawn, and of course he could bring the queen back up and my knight's basically gone. Okay, so knight takes queen is excellent, but d takes c3 was the best move. Okay. A lot of messing around. I disagree with the engine there. I kind of prefer the move I played, taking a major piece off the board. Alright. B takes c3 was excellent, but bishop takes c3. Or b, sorry, takes c3 would have been the best move. Oh yeah, okay, so I would have doubled pawns, but again I would have still had a pawn in place above the queen. The reason why I didn't do that is I wanted to free up my bishop so I could eventually get the bishop out somewhere that it could potentially be useful during the game early on. So knight c6, best move, moving his knight back out of trouble. He couldn't have put his knight on e6 because he would have been snapped up by the bishop. Would have happily exchanged bishop for knight because he couldn't recapture, because that would have resulted in his king being in check. Okay. I played bishop g5, pinning the knight. He could have, and what I expected my opponent to do was actually bring down the h-pawn to try and kick my bishop, in which case I would just move my bishop back. Obviously, or at least for me, I would have then played the g-pawn, brought that down to again force that bishop to move to a safer square and get him out of the way, reducing some of that threat. But instead my opponent decided to resign from that game, or abandon that game. So according to coach, oh wow, I played a 15-50. It's probably my best game yet. Outplayed your opponent in that one. You took advantage of the opportunities you saw in the opening and you dominated the middle game. Okay, well I think I'm really enjoying playing the Vienna, so seems to work okay. Alright, let's just close that tab there, and we'll go back here and we'll do a new 15-10, and let's see what happens in the next game. So white again. All right. Again, we'll start off with the Vienna game. Nice move there by my opponent, initially putting pressure directly to my bish. Ouch. Okay. Well, the bishop is under threat, and I do have that line through to the f7 pawn, so I want to keep him there. I'll move my bishop back and see what my opponent does. Okay, so my opponent's trying to push down to again keep additional pressure on the bishop. I'll use my a pawn. I'll sacrifice that just to put a blocker in place, at least for now. I can always retake with the knight, which is fine. Gives me a little bit more space. As I notice, my opponent's developed a nice looking pawn chain. Okay, so he's protecting that pawn, but he still has that line open, or this diagonal open, basically from b2 to the very weak f7, which is my target. So I'm going to develop my queen to f3. f3 is targeting again the f7 pawn. Nice move, bringing out the queen as protection. So we can do a queen trade early on, and I'll then lose, of course, my bishop from that trade. I want to get his queen out of the way, and I also need to be able to develop some pieces and get castled. Now my opponent, his knight really is stuck unless he moves that d7 pawn. So my options here, I can still choose to either castle kingside or queenside. Both options are open to me. Now I can move the d2 pawn either up to d3 or maybe d4 to open up the line. Somewhat risky. Can be done, but still somewhat risky. So I'll develop my knight. I'll move him out to h3, which then gives me some movement options, although it's not the best position. As I stop and think of that, I'm then at the side of the board, or on the rim, so knight's on the rim, dim or grim, whichever way you want to say it. So my options from there are to go to f4, which is protected, or move to g5, which currently is protected also by the queen. So I think it may be best to move my knight out to e2. That helps to develop the knight and gives him some movement options. So we'll do that, and then I'm now ready to castle kingside. So one thing I've been doing, I think early on, was really not paying much attention to my own king safety. So sometimes I'd leave the king floating around the middle of the board, and well, that's it. Alright, so my opponents decide to place some pressure on my knight. I don't really have any safe squares for that knight to go other than again to put him in the corner, which may be okay because there is no direct threat to any of the pieces immediately around the knight. If the knight was to move to a2, I have no direct threats from my opponent. His pawn is currently stuck there. However, that does put my knight into a position where he can't really move and he can't really do much. Now, I could force a queen exchange, which could be interesting, but is that really what I want to do? At this point, if I was to castle, my opponent immediately will just snag that knight and say thanks. I don't really want to give him the free knight at this point, so I need to find somewhere I can move my knight. Now, if I move my knight down to d1, I'm some opportunity to move out to e3 for further development should my opponent start pushing pawns. So I think I'll move the knight back to d1, so I've at least got some movement opportunity and my knight is not on the corner of the board. trying to avoid that. Okay, so my opponent pushes the pawn. Now, if he does push the pawn one more down, it is protected then by the bishop, and he can actually then entrap my my bishop. So I again do not have a direct access into f7. So let's see, some options there in terms of that attack. If I immediately take with my queen, it's just a straight up queen exchange, and I'll have to recapture with the bishop so that I retake my opponent's queen. He can then recapture with his king and no castling for my opponent, which may give some advantage. So let's just go ahead and do it. Okay, and then I'll capture his queen. And sure, you can take a piece, that's fine. I'll move a pawn up to protect the current location of my my knight on e2, because I didn't really want to just leave him hanging there. Okay, so a little bit of knight development coming in from my opponent. All right, let's just block that pawn march. Go ahead and castle at this point. I'm looking to fianchetto the bishop there. Okay, and my opponent is then covering his potentially open pawn. Let's go ahead and castle first. My opponent's playing quite well. Okay, so I have a pawn open to a potential attack from my my opponent's knight. Do I want to allow that? If I do so, my opponent then has an attack on my rook on a1, which I'm not really excited about. If I do capture here, my opponent will end up with double pawns, which could be beneficial to me. So let's go ahead and try that. Now my opponent still has two bishop pair. I only have the single bishop. He's created a nice little run along there. To get my knight out, I'll either go here to that location. Again, my knight's in potential trouble, but I'm exchanging a knight for a bishop, hopefully. So let's see what we get. Okay. The bishop can't go anywhere from there. He's trying to connect his rooks. Let's go ahead and put the knight up for grabs. Targeted this pawn, which results in a check. Thank you very much for the follow. Let's see what we can do here. The pawn is now now covered. I'll keep a little bit of tension there. Do I want to give up a bishop to capture a knight, which is feasible? Let's just think about that and just create some blocks here. If I move to d2, my bish still keeps my bishop on the board and active, and my opponent's just sacked a bishop. I will capture towards the center. Okay, so my opponent's covering this this pawn, but I do have a pawn back here, which is not a problem. All right, so I've got a nice little block, or series of blocks along the way there. I can push this pawn and try and open things up a bit to let my rooks out. So let's see what we get. No real movement there from my opponent, other than to to move his rook over to a8. Lift my f rook up to f3 and take it across. Where I can move it in a good supporting area. Let's go ahead and do that. If my opponent does take this this pawn, I recapture. If he moves down, it's gone again. Okay, so my opponent's looking to, I think, to move rooks down and then double up the attack on the way down on the b file. That's fine. All right, so I need to start moving some pawns up. So let's move h3 in preparation for a g4 move. Okay. I don't really have to take directly there, but I can be a pain and sit on b2. Okay. Opponent's looking for a bishop exchange. I don't really want to do that right now, so I'll move my bishop down. That way I can still use the bishop to capture my opponent's pawn should he move there. That's fine. Okay. Don't really want to do another bishop exchange. That wouldn't be a lot of fun, and particularly not in my best interest, I don't think. Interesting. Okay. Let's target that knight and get him moving along somewhere. Just get out of the way. Don't want you there. Okay. So I can capture a pawn with check, forcing my my opponent to move, and then I can get another pawn. So let's do that. See where my opponent moves. Pawn at the moment is unprotected. Can be captured by my opponent's knight. It's a knight in position. It's not the greatest for me. I can protect with the bishop, but that does then open the possibility of my opponent moving his pawn down. And I don't really want that exchange, so let's threaten the bishop at this point. I'm going to threaten his bishop c3. Take those dark squared bishops off the board. Unfortunately, I had to take that. Really didn't have much in the way of choice. It's playing very, very well. Good game. So look at the game review here. I played a 77 accuracy. That's about typical of what I usually play. My opponent played an 81.9. Okay, had 1 great move, 22 best. He had 15 excellent, no blunders, 2 misses, 4 inaccuracies. All right, let's see what we've got here. Alrighty, so e4, e5, 30 times, 53% win rate on Vienna game. So my opponent played c6, which was good, and knight c6, standard best. Okay, b5, best move. Bishop b3 was best, moving back was a good move. Excellent. a4 was excellent, okay. a3 would have been better. Let the opponent perhaps step down to threaten the knight. Let's see the moves on that one. Interesting. d6 I don't know. From the way my opponent played that game, I expected he would have, had I done that move, played b4 to push the knight out. And with that, my knight's really got 2 squares. He's got b1 and e2, either of those to move to that are safe. Or again, go to a4, putting my knight on the rim. Okay, so let's look at what was played here. I moved queen f3, which was a miss. I should have done knight f3, which would have then put pressure directly on the e5 pawn, which I could have then followed on to capture. Okay. So again, another miss by moving the knight. So a takes b5. Well, I could have recaptured either with the pawn or the bishop. Most likely with the pawn, because that square is protected by the knight. So if he recaptured with the pawn, he could then take my knight with his bishop. Okay, so knight d1 was an excellent move, but back to his home square of b1 would have been the best move. Okay. My opponent was inaccurate with that. It's a blunder. Okay. d3 would have been the best move. So let's have a look at that one. So d3 resulting then in queen f6 to queen h3. I've got a clear threat to that pawn. And then h5 is the opponent's response. I'm not sure if he would have played h5 the way he was playing the rest of that game. Would have been easier for him to make a few movements out there, because he's still got that square protected. Not really sure. I mean, they may be the best computer moves, but I just don't think my opponent would have played those. I certainly know I wouldn't have. So bishop takes was best. Was really the only move, was to recapture the queen, and then of course the bishop's retaken by the king. d3 was good. b3 would have been better. Okay, so stopping the pawn advance, but potentially giving up the knight. It's taken, and okay, so give up casting rights, and don't worry about that. sure I'd fully agree with it, but so b3. I played knight c6. Castling was good, but knight e3 would have been better, so get the knight out and develop. So I've got a couple of potential squares from there, and both are protected. So let's see what moves the computer would have had. Okay. Yeah, definitely a better move because I've got a pin on the knight, whereas by having the pawn in the way, there is no chance of a pin taking that, and he could retake. Okay, we've got pawns blocking up traffic, which is fine, but I would still actually then have some movement options. His rook b8 was excellent, but e takes f4 was his best move, and then encouraging me to move the pawn to e5, which you could easily recapture. Okay. Yeah, c takes b3. So I've got the capturing my opponent's pawn, stopping any promotion chance there. And then he could really only recapture with his rook, which would have left me a rook ahead. Okay. Of course, then comes down the rook threatening to capture this undefended pawn. So leaving that in place, moving to b7, I could have created a tighter box in which the king would have restricted movement. So let's see if that's what the engine's looking at doing. King g3 would have been the best move. Engine best move would be rook b4, but I think from here my opponent could take his rook directly up to the 8th rank, and he's blocked off this entire area for me. His rook's up top, which is what he did in the game. He can then move on to promote quite easily. All right, So h4 was excellent, but king f3, and then straight to the top. So I'm blocked off basically. Now this move here, well, I'm back from there. When I was in check at that position, I actually expected my opponent would have moved his queen down here. That way he could have really boxed me in because I have nowhere to advance with these squares. Obviously I can't advance here, but I do have the option of an escape here, and then moving back down. So it was forced, really the only option I had. And then really nicely my opponent just moved his queen straight into a checkmate. So according to Coach from chess.com, you had a pretty competitive game. The opening was well balanced. It was a well fought middle game that got the better of you. Yeah, definitely did. Both of you played with incredible precision in the end game. So I got a 950 rating. That's pretty good. Happy with that. My opponent played 1100. So my insights, castling, yeah, no, that one comes up a lot, and pawn accuracy, most definitely. When it really comes to using pawns, I think that's an opportunity that I have. There's a lot to learn there, particularly in the use of pawns and how I build pawn structures, and really getting familiar with what the different pawn structures are. All right, so that was an interesting review. All right, so 81.9 accuracy from the opponent, 77 from me. Not too bad. Not too bad. All right, so I'm currently 726 in rapid. I'll take that as okay. From current stats. Okay, so the last 90 days. Let's go the last 30 days. Played 17 games in total, but rapid 726 for 30 days. My rating's up 54, so I'm happy with that. 64% win, 36 loss, so 9 wins, 5 losses. Looking at over 90 days, just to see I am showing definitely improvement. 10 wins, 6 losses. Look at all time on the account. My highest has been 803. I'm currently at 726. Slowly but surely going to work my way back there and hopefully beyond. Looking at the win-loss rates, it says probably I'm about right, really, for my knowledge of the game. 48% wins, 46% loss, so it's about right. Best win streak I had was 9. It's 9 wins in a row, which is pretty damned awesome. And look at the rest of my stats: the daily 832, puzzle 1600. Look at my current series of rappers. The last few games I played have done quite well. Had some pretty reasonable wins. That 95 accuracy game, first one from today, that was, yeah, just absolutely wrapped with that, the way that played out. Although disappointing, my opponent left the game as early as he did. He definitely had a lot more options that he could have chosen. But yeah, running around that 60-70 odd accuracy, real low accuracy this game, 56.6, but did win in 29 moves, so yeah, not bad. Alrighty, I'm going to grab a quick drink, then come back and play a few more rapid games. So don't go anywhere. I'll be back in about 5 minutes. Guys, sorry, this is a little extended break, longer than I had thought. I was making a few changes in here. So back on the chess.com game screen, I'll switch over to an application called En-Croissant. If you don't have it already, I certainly recommend look it up and get it. It is open source software, which is really excellent. So it's completely free. And it does full analysis and reports of your games. Now, with En-Croissant, I've got the analysis and the report built up here. So this is the analysis of my my game that I just played, the one that I'd lost, and it of course goes through and does all the highlights of moves, etc. The same as the chess.com report. However, this one's a little bit different. If you look here, the accuracy from white is at 79.2. and from black was 89.2. Now it's a little different than what was reported from chess.com. According to chess.com, their game review gave white a 77 accuracy and 81.9 to black, so a bit of a difference there. Now En-Croissant, for the engines, part of this application, you can choose a range of engines. So I have Stockfish, that's the latest 16, Lichess Cloud, which is looking at players within my my range, and LC0 as well, just as an alternate engine. You can see there the variances of the moves, where Stockfish will give a plus 0.35, Leela gives a 0.41. That's just really for looking at your engine analysis of games both won and lost. So going back to the report, this is from Stockfish. So just a few differences there. We'll look at the listing of moves. Brilliance between En-Croissant or Stockfish, 0 brilliance from both of us, the same as chess.com report. It does then list good moves rather than great moves. My opponent did play at least 2 good moves. According to chess.com, there was 1 great and 22 best. There were 2 interesting moves. My opponent played 3 dubious moves. I played 4. My opponent made 4 mistakes. I made 5 and one blunder. So as we look through the list of moves, they're all highlighted in accordance with the colouring that comes out in the report. So if we take a look here at the first one that's highlighted, the bishop a6. Now that's listed as a mistake, which is shown up here as a mistake with a question mark, same as what we see in the report. I can go back in later through the chess.com review, and it will show you what the best move was, but En-Croissant just lets you go back by yourself so you can have a look and see what was good, what was really dodgy. And obviously a blunder here in move 9, where I decided to sack the queen in order to get my opponent's queen off the board. So according to the engines, and I say all the engines, that would be an absolutely horrible move. So you can look at some variations here through En-Croissant, and just playing across the main line. So if instead of having done that move, Stockfish recommends moving my pawn. So if I did the pawn move, my opponent would then have challenged my queen. Again, as in chess.com's review, move the queen across to the H file, and Now, looking at the different coloured arrows we've got here, the blue is Stockfish recommendation, and the red is Leela or LCO's recommendation. So if we play the LCO recommendation, and then again Leela is recommending it yet another pawn move. The pawn is protected by the knight. However, Stockfish does recommend moving the knight across to, obviously, I would think, looking at a move into the F file. So let's try that. And there's my opponent brings out or moves his knight, obviously looking to try and do something maybe to castle, although he does have an open space here next to the king. You would take there, giving pressure, and that pressures the queen. However, you're going to lose. Take, and of course this is covered. Weird variances, but okay. Save that one for later. Let's go back and play a fresh game. Let's see how we go. Another 15-10. Might need some good luck in this one, I think. White pieces again. It's being very friendly to me on chess.com right now. Usually end up with a run of nothing but black, like 9 or 10 games in a row. But a lot of run of white pieces. Doesn't drastically improve my play in any way. This makes me feel a little bit better. Okay. Go ahead and just take the central squares, moving my central pawns, occupying the D and E file. It's going to win me a rook, possibly. Okay. Like where he could potentially move that white bishop. He's got a lot of opportunities here, for example. Bring my knight up and look at capturing here, but that would just result in an exchange of knights. Let's just move the bishop and get prepared to castle and connect the rooks. If he moves out that white bishop, my opponent may choose to do that. Okay, trying to put pressure on my queen, putting her under an attack. But let's see what other options I've got here, because that would be nice. Okay, put you in check. Check you again, because I want to. Take a pawn. And bishop possibly there at one stage. We'll see. And moves back again. We could just end up repeating moves again and again and again. Resulting queens off the board. Let's put a little pressure there. The idea being to replace the position of the queen with the bishop. And the queen to find an alternate location. Back into check again. See if I can't win a queen. Damn it, I just hung my queen. Oh, you idiot. No. Whoa. How in the wide world of sports did you miss that, dude? You're playing as bad as me. What's going on? That was bad. So do I queen exchange straight away? Yeah, why not? Oh, wow. I mean, that was, take my queen, have it. That was terrible play. Absolutely terrible play. I should have done so much better than that. But, it happens. You do those things. Oh, man. And my opponent's looking at that saying, wow, I don't really want to lose my queen. He's going to have to. It's a forced move. So it then becomes a question of, do I recapture with the knight or do I recapture with the bishop? I think if I recapture with the bishop, I can have a little more fun, get a bit more mobility going with my knight. Yep, okay. Now if I recapture with the knight, I can exchange the knight for a bishop, possibly, although my opponent could move his bishop down. So let's recapture with the bishop, because his king can't recapture because it would put him into check. But I do have another check here. My opponent places me in check. Okay. I'll just move up, that's fine. No drama, I'll return the favour next move. Yeah, he takes my dark squared bish. That kind of sucks, but it's alright. Would like to chat? Sure. Sometimes risky accepting chats. Okay. So, let's just take a rook. That was my intention there. His knight in that position is essentially stuck. He's got no safe squares apart from one. See what we can do there. I've got to watch my knight position now, which is up in the corner of the board, so it's a little bit dubious. I really need to get this knight activated here, sitting on the G square. Just at G1, he's hanging around at home, hasn't done anything yet. Needs to get out and about and do something with his life. Got a great voice. Hey, thanks. Oh, nice move. Nice move. Try an F3 on that one and just question the bishop. What do you want to do? Looking at the bishop, I totally didn't see him making that move. It's one thing I found in most of my games when I go back and do the reviews and the analysis on there. It's like, wow, where did that bishop come from? Okay. Nicely played. Alright, so my opponent was looking there to potentially run off a bishop exchange. So my opponent definitely would then be in a much better position than what I currently am. So let's look and see what I have here on the board. I have really a knight that's sitting at home doing nothing. I have a rook stuck in the corner. Again, not really doing much. So piece mobility, my opponent really has a good free range on his rook from A8, covering the across the entire back rank. which is good good positioning for him. So, the only piece my opponent has that really doesn't have much in the way of mobility is his knight at a1. He's got two stuck pawns in the middle, but anything else, he's got plenty of movement and potential free space. So I need to start looking at how can I develop space. So I think perhaps start moving pawns carefully. Bearing in mind my opponent still has a light squared bishop active, he has an active rook, he has a knight that, not that active right now, but could be. Okay, so we're going to run off a exchange of bishops, removing bishops off the board. It's a nice move, protects a pawn and a rook potentially. Okay. So I need to look at what moves do I have that I can get pieces out and about. Now my opponent's definitely looking at locking me in through some really good play. So my danger points, my opponent has a potentially active king, an active rook. So what can I move? My knight's essentially stuck by my own pieces. So let's make a movement of my my king and see what I can do here. Okay, very nice. Good play. All right, good game. All right, let's look at a review. Game review had, for myself, accuracy 51.3, my opponent 59.9. Had two great moves, my opponent had one, 9 best, 3 excellent goods. He had 3 blunders, I had no blunders, but my opponent still won the game. So I kind of wonder about this game review, how actually accurate it really is. All right, let's take a look here, go through here. So got e4 and g6. Let's take those show best moves off here and actually just press across the button. So g6, book move. Taking the center, d4, book move. Books, book. Okay, so it said that was a blunder. Blunder because the bishop was getting taken immediately by the queen. So the best move would have been to bring out the knight f6. Again, putting pressure on the pawn, even though it's protected. It's only protected by a knight. But my opponent still does have a lot of movement possibilities from there. Alright, let's take a look here. Queen takes d4. Listed as a great move. I don't know why it listed as a great move. It's pretty much obvious the only one, but it does put a threat towards the rook on h8. To which my opponent played f6, which was a good move, but not the best move. I thought that would have been the best move because it's completely blocking the attack on the rook, and it still keeps an opening for the bishop. So let's see what the computer thinks was the best move. Straight up attack on the queen, being e5. Okay. It's forcing my queen to move. Limited squares that I could go to. If I jump into d5, it's easy to get pushed out of the way. There's a couple of ways that can be done. So for f6 it said e5 was the best move. So let's have a look at that one. Okay, just pushing my queen straight down. So bishop d2 was good, but not best. Bishop e3. Okay. Excellent move, e5. Threaten the queen with the knight. Okay, so I think the computer's looking there at developing a piece and then putting pressure on a much more valuable piece that has no clear lines of attack that aren't protected by something else. Again, forcing me to look at, do I move my queen down to d3? Do I move it to e3? And that's really the only two squares that are safe that I could move my queen to. Not much really there in the way of choice. So that was a good move. Queen d5 was listed as excellent, but again, not best. Best move to move the queen down. Okay, queen e3. So let's look at what the computer thinks would happen. Okay, so at the end of that, I've got a threat to a knight that, as it stands, can't really do much with it because I don't have a white squared bishop anymore. If I did, it would have been nice sitting on c4. That would have been lovely, but that didn't happen. So let's take a look at the next move here. Knight e7 was inaccurate. Okay, it's a good threat to the queen. So moving the queen down, the knight's protected anyway by the rook, so I can't do anything there. This pawn's safe because it is protected by the bishop. It wouldn't be a very good exchange for me. In this position, the only thing I can really see is to move my bishop, excuse me, pardon me, to b5 to place a threat to the queen, essentially pinning, because the king is behind it. My opponent really there wouldn't have much option other than to move down a pawn, or if he chose to recapture with his queen, I have the choice of either a knight or queen coming in to recapture that square. So queen f7 check was a best move. Okay, king d7 is forced move. Check again, best move. King d7 is good but not best. An immediate pressure to the queen by bringing out the rook. So that safeguarded the rook from the square that was potentially under attack, being h8. So then got bishop g5, which was a good move, but again not best. So according to the engine, bishop h6 is best move. Alright, What's the predicted moves from here? Okay, then a bishop that can be pushed around. Does work out alright. It gives me +4. Alright. The opponent played knight b to c6, which is seen as a mistake. So his best move there, offering a queen trade. Okay. 26 check, great move. Okay. King e8. And then knight d5, which was really bad. And this is the point where my queen is just absolutely hanging. Free queen, jump out, take that. And then you've got, of course, a threat to the knight. If the knight moves, you gain the bishop and you block off the f1 square, potentially stopping me from castling kingside and forcing me into a queenside castle. So knight d4, as my opponent played that, I think gave me a little bit of a break at that point. And then come back in to obviously place a nice threat again to my queen. Now I did a queen e7 check, forcing the queen trade, which at that point Stockfish says was a miss. So let's look at the best move. Placing the king into check would have been the best move. So my queen is still relatively safe. The enemy king has one square that he can move to. Bye-bye. So let's look at what Stockfish come out with, obviously, and would have been mate. Lovely. All right. So from there we did a queen e7, which is a forced move. Bishop takes e7. Knight takes a1. Which best move? Knight c7 check, which was inaccurate. So best move from there. Threaten the rook. I don't really have a fork because this is a protected pawn. So let's see what the computer would have thought had that move taken place. Check, and then take the other one. Okay, so back to the actual game. Knight takes, which is best move. Bishop g4 check, which was nice move of the bishop. And I played f3 to block it, which was a mistake. It's the best move. Keep pawn structure in place, nice and flat. Again, the knight would be completely stuck, nowhere for him to go, and taking my king out of check. All right, so takes the knight, which is a mistake. It's a free knight. Rook c8, so threaten the bishop, which is often seen as a higher value piece than the knight. Take a look here. Bishop d5. It was a miss. Okay, best move. What did I miss? Yes, of course. I should have taken there from g4. Bishop e6, which was inaccurate for him. Definitely one I'm going to review in depth later on, as well as that missed mate opportunity. Alright, so H3 again shows as a mistake. What was the best move? King and cross, yeah, okay. Bishop D5. He takes D5. C8, best moves. I get some space there so I can actually activate my rook rather than have him stuck at home. C1 was inaccurate. Why? Yeah, he could get his knight out away from the corner of the board where he's kind of stuck, and then becomes a more active piece because he is protected by the rook on C8. But G4 was good. C2 is a blunder. B3. And I buggered up knight H3, which was a definite mistake. Yeah, because that square, if you tried to move his knight out, is covered anyway. What I was concerned about when I made that move was trying to free up some room for my rook to be able to make some movements, but that didn't work out too well. Alright, so pretty competitive game. Took advantage of the opportunities you saw in the opening. Your opponent better navigated a chaotic middle game. Absolutely. Your opponent had the better end of a sloppy endgame. Yeah, for sure. Alright, so I played a 450 rating. My opponent played a 600. It was a good game. Well played. Well played. But I think that that miss back towards the beginning, I really, as we were going through the multiple checks, really just missing what should have developed into a pretty quick mate. It was a bad move on my part. So something else for me to study further. Going to head and take a little bit of a drink break here. My throat's getting a little bit sore. So we're back in about 5 minutes, guys. I hope you enjoyed watching that game. I certainly enjoyed playing it. And to Santosh, thank you very much for the game, mate. That was really good. Thank you.